Erion, welcome, bro. Good to have you here, brother.
Thanks for having me.
My guy.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so you've been with us for a little over 2 years now, right? You were a teenager when you got started, zero sales experience, never done sales, but what you had was hunger. You had a lot of ambition, a lot of hunger, big aspirations, and kind of annoying at the start when I first got to know you. But look at you now. You're consistently putting up numbers on the board, closing high-ticket deals for a nine-figure entrepreneur. And that's fucking huge, you know? And I just wanted to sit down with you and talk, talk about your journey. I know there's a lot of people out there in the same position as you were 2 years ago, who at a crossroads right now, not sure what they want to do with their life. They have hunger, they have big goals, big aspirations, but they're just looking for that opportunity to actually prove it to themselves, right? And your story is not only inspiring, but it is literally a fucking blueprint for the others, who are trying to make it big in sales, but they don't know where to start, right? So why don't we start this off by this? How old are you now?
I'm 20 years old right now.
20 years old.
Yeah.
What was the most amount you made in a single month, and did you go to college?
The most amount of money I made in a single month was about $20,000. I didn't go to college.
$20,000 at 19.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's start off with this. Let's tell the viewers, give it a little background about yourself. How was your life like before closing? Like, what were you up to, leading up to that point?
Yeah. So before closing, I was a typical high school student, right? Immigrant parents. So the biggest thing was obviously I had to be a straight A student.
Right.
I played soccer at a high level, but the goal was school, college.
Yeah.
Then obviously the pandemic hit. So moved a little bit away from school. So during the pandemic, what I started doing due to school being online, I started working construction with my father as a construction company. And I'm like, this is an opportunity. I want to make some money. I always hated being dependent on other people for money. I always hated asking my parents, hey, Dad, let me get 20 bucks. I'm going out with friends to eat, whatever. It just seems corny and a little bit of a bitch move to me, in my opinion, at that age.
Yeah.
So I started working construction with him, and I thought, you know what? It's a great industry. I'm going to make a lot of money.
Right.
Then I started doing it. It was a lot of money, but it was also a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Long hours, long days, very hard to work. And so by the end of my high school, I took a vacation. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I had a university, which I'd accepted the offer. I had a full ride scholarship at U of T.
Yeah, right.
So I went on vacation, came back. I'm like, I'm going to take a gap here. I don't know what I want to do.
You had a scholarship.
Yeah.
For what? What degree?
Business.
Business.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why didn't you go to college?
Working with my father, and I saw other people that worked for him that had college degrees, and other people, I'm like, this is just a shit show. COVID just, I guess, made everybody realize that, like, no matter what, college degree or not, you're gonna fail, right? There's gonna be other things in the world that control how much money you make.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Instead of having that control, yeah. How did you actually find remote closing? Because with you, it wasn't like the traditional way, like people would go search online, see an ad, how to make money online. You actually saw the reality, right?
Yeah.
So how did you actually get into closing?
What I did is I came back from vacation. I started working at a cafe because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You'll see why we're smiling in a second.
And so if anybody's seen the movie, obviously, Wolf of Wall Street, know exactly, this is exactly like the scene. Right. I saw you and I'm like, saw him getting a nice car. I'm like, obviously it's like diamonds when you see it. There's very sparkly things, you're attracted to it. See you coming into the cafe, I'm like, I have to take this opportunity. I have to ask this guy at least just what he does. And obviously randomly came up to you as you're in line. I'm like, hey, nice car. What do you do for a living? And a little bit took him back, but you're more than pleasant to answer my question. And being as annoying as I was, I'm like, how much money do you make? How long have you been doing it? How do I do it? Can I do it? All this and that, right? And then obviously you give me the opportunity and you're like, hey, listen, at this time I'm going to post something on my story for anybody who is actually seriously interested in doing this.
Right.
So I eagerly waited for that after my shift.
Yeah.
I was in the changing room, just waiting until you posted that story on October 18th. I remember the date too. I'm like, respond sales if you're actually looking for a sales job.
Right.
I responded sales.
Yeah.
Next day, obviously, you get back to me. You're like, hey, we're having an interview at this place. send me your details.
Right.
Then the journey started from there. Obviously, had my in-person interviews, right, with you, with Misha, with the rest of the team, with Dylan, right? Obviously, I was fortunate enough to get hired.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, luck had a little bit to do with it too, but it's just like your like persistence. You know, I would see you every morning in that coffee shop and you ask me what I do, you know, if I can get into it, things like that. And, you know, I get that all the time. And I'm like, I told you, listen, if you're serious, you message me at this time. Yeah. And if I'm like, let me test this guy if he's serious, you know? And then you did. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Come and see me at this time. And then you did, right? And that's what happens when you know, just put your hand out and start shaking people's hand, you know, they get a little bit uncomfortable. Because it's like, you're always, like, even with myself, you know, I would not have been where I am today if it wasn't for me networking, right? You're always like one person away from changing the whole trajectory of your life. But tell me, like, what was like your experience, like your first couple of days in the office? You know, what were your doubts before you know, actually jumped into the space?
So my biggest doubt was in myself before I jumped into the space, just due to the fact that I had never done sales before this in any way, shape, or form, whether it be, you know, door-to-door, phone sales, or anything like that.
Right.
So this is my first and only sales gig I've ever done. So coming into it, and it was an amazing first day when I came in. Obviously, I came in and I see the board with everybody writing up how much they've closed. Right. You know, I see 3K, 5K, Misha, 25K, and I'm like, I want this now, right? Yeah. Because later down the line, obviously explain the commission structure and how it works, and I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, this is more than what I'm making a month working at the cafe or anywhere else. So I'm like, okay. And obviously, the first 2 weeks were training, day in and day out, as much as I could shadow anybody in the office. I could listen to calls, ask for call recordings so I could listen, role play with anybody who was in between calls, or you or anybody who had the chance to. Yeah, yeah. So I think that really being surrounded by that environment of that hunger by everybody else, it's not just me who's looking to succeed. Right. And that support system of everybody, you know, being there and looking to actually help you, wanting you to succeed, which got me within 2 weeks now to actually hop on calls. And then the first day, obviously, on my making calls, I closed my first deal.
How long did it take you to close your first deal? From day one of getting into office, complete noob, to closing your first deal?
Took me 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, so not only like you were motivated by, you know, the competitive nature in the office and everybody putting in numbers, but you came in, you learned the theory, and you actually start applying it, practicing it, role playing in different scenarios, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions before you actually started getting on calls. Out of curiosity, like, what were like some of the misconceptions, if any, if you had about sales?
I mean, I think we all have the major misconception of sales before you get into it, that like you're gonna have to be hunting people down for leads, and it's really a matter of, well, you pitch them, and it's either yes or no. If they buy or not, it's not really up to you. And then when I started hopping on calls, I'm like, there's a list of people who want to talk to me. It's the other way around. Yeah. It took me back a little bit because I'm like, this isn't what sales, at least what I've heard about, right? I'm like, these are people they already have their credit card in their hand. And all I have to do is actually show them the value and why it makes sense for them and get a commission check. I'm like, that just just blew my mind.
Salespeople have a negative connotation, right? Like everybody hates salespeople. It's like we have a lower status, and that's because it sucks. Because there's a lot of salespeople who are sleazy. They are like that because they're not being themselves, right? They're just out for the money. But if you truly have good intention and you like people and like to help people, sales will reward you in ways you could never imagine. Right?
Yeah. No.
And we'll talk about that in a second. Salespeople have, there's a lot of misconceptions about sales. Salespeople have a negative connotation. What were, if any, your misconceptions about sales?
That in itself, like, I told people before I started doing this, I'm going to start doing sales, and they all gave me a bit of a dirty look, because we all know, we've heard the tales of, these sleazy salesmen, calling you at 3 a.m. in the morning, hey, you ready to buy my product right now, right? 50% discount. I'm like, oh shit. Like, I was never really a confrontational person, so I thought I had to deal with the yelling and all of that.
Right.
Then first they hop on the calls, and these people are excited to talk to me because they've reached out to me instead of the vice versa.
Exactly.
Like, they're expecting my call. They want to talk to me.
Yeah.
They're already ready to buy. They just want to make sure this is the right fit for them.
Right.
And I just have to show them the gap and make sure this is a good fit and just break it down.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really about the opportunity that you're on in sales, right? There's just a lot more shitty opportunities out there that actually, you know, that have like shitty leads, don't deliver to their prospects. That just goes to show that, you know, it's the opportunity that you're on. It's not how hard you row, it's not how hard you work, right? It's the boat that you're actually on, right? And you're actually on a good opportunity, working on an offer with leads who are actually interested in the product, right? And so you didn't have to do a lot of convincing about the product, right? And now you know that the product is literally what? 10% of the sale.
Yeah.
Most of the sale is what?
It's the actual process during the whole call, right? It's just really building that connection with the person.
Exactly. It's you, right?
It's
you're building that rapport, making them like you. They're buying because of you, right? Not because of the product. They already like the product. They already know they need it, right? Now it's just buying it from you. Now that you know this information, what would you go back and tell your younger self before getting into sales?
Don't be nervous. Don't be intimidated by it. I remember my first calls. I used to be in the corner of the office, hiding my face because I used to be petrified. And I have these old call recordings. And I'm like, yes, are you ready to buy? And I was scared, right?
Right.
And I lost a lot of deals because of that, because I probably could have closed them. I just need to be more confident and more certain of myself and what I'm actually doing.
Yeah.
I would have closed way more in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember those days, man. I remember those days. You would hide and go when I come. You would go and run into the back room.
Yeah.
And I would chase you down, and I would make you feel uncomfortable on purpose, because I knew that's what you needed.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when Dylan wanted to hear my calls. I'm like, no, tomorrow. No, oh, he's not gonna show. He's probably not gonna show. I don't want to waste your time. But, you know, and it's just that, you know, you chasing that discomfort, you knowing that that's exactly what you had to do, just get a little bit uncomfortable to get comfortable. Yeah. So when you started off, you were closing for mid-size businesses, right? You're closing mid-ticket items from $2K to $5K, right? And then now you're closing for a 9-figure entrepreneur for pretty big fucking business, pretty big deal. We can't say names, we have an NDA. You know, you're closing deals from $10,000 up to $1 million, right? So what were the things you actually had to overcome and learn for you to actually, from making $5K a month to making serious numbers, like $15K a month?
It's now that I look back at it, it's very easy to do $5K in the space that we're in with the clients that we have. My challenge was the consistency, because I'd never made this amount of money so quickly. I would close 2, 3, $5K, in a week, right, back to back each day. I'd feel like the king, because I didn't know anything above the $5K a month. Yeah. And so I'd do whatever I wanted for the rest of the day. I'd go to the basketball court, I'd go to the gym, go for walks around the office for no reason. And so that set me limitations, because now instead of, I could have potentially made $10,000, $15,000 that month, I only made $5,000 because I wasn't consistent, because I got complacent with my results, because that's all I knew. I made the goal of, let's say, $5K bigger than what I actually was. I made it as it was the end all be all. There was nothing above that. Right. So I had to shift my mindset to $5K is nothing. Yeah. Instead of now, closing $5K, that was the big thing. I can make $5K in a day. And I had to shift my mind, because no client, especially the one I'm selling at right now, a 9-figure entrepreneur, no one's going to give you leads who has 6, 7, 8, 9 figures to invest into them. Right. Without actually having that that track record of, okay, they can do it at a lower ticket consistently for month after month without dropping off. Yeah. And that was my mind shift. Interesting. So just setting a new standard to yourself. Yeah. Right? Setting a new standard to yourself. Yeah, I see this all the time in sales, even in business. A lot of people have good months, and then after they hit the good months, they make $10,000 and $20,000. And they exceed their own expectations. They just take their foot off the pedal and fucking relax. Yeah. Because deep inside, they know they don't deserve more. Yeah. Right? And then when they do that, now they go back to their older selves, and it's a perpetual fucking vicious cycle of trying to go back from 0 to 10K, 0 to 20K, right? Yeah. So how did you actually overcome that, man? I had to have a lot of sit-downs with Dylan. And the reason being is the way I wanted to be where Dylan is. Financially and obviously sales aspects, especially in the beginning and even now. Yeah. And him being at where I am, I needed to get that transfer of certainty that my goal isn't as big as it actually is. Right. I knew it, but I felt like, making 20K a month is it's impossible to me, because I've never seen that type of money. And he put it in perspective for me and really just brought me back down to earth that 20K is just 20K. Nothing more, nothing less. There's always going to be more to do.
Right.
As soon as you close, obviously our favorite phrase in the office is the best time to close a deal is right after you close one.
Right.
Is ride that momentum.
Right.
Right? Once the call is done, whether you close or not, write it off. It's done. The call, move on from it. Don't linger onto it. No matter if it was good, yes, reflect on it at the end of the day, but don't think about it right then.
Right.
Move on to the next call. You have plenty of leads in there, more opportunities, more opportunities, more opportunities to close.
That's a valuable lesson. That's a valuable. The best time to close a deal is right after a fucking deal that you just closed. And for those of you who don't know what Dylan is, Dylan Blues is my mentor, Erion's mentor. He's actually the individual who got me into this space and changed the whole trajectory of my life. Absolute legend. What else do you feel like, what other help did you get from us that helped you overcome all these challenges for you to level up, with your money, with your mindset?
It's really having a lot of my favorite thing is obviously doing our one-on-ones that we used to have, right? The trainings and breaking it down, call analysis, right? Really getting down the goals, like getting a blueprint, a step-by-step of how am I actually going to achieve that goal and be consistent with it. Because you can't go from 2 to 10K with no plan, let's just say, right?
Right.
There has to be baby steps. You can't run before you walk.
Yeah.
And so that was the process for me is really, one, make sure I have my framework down, right? Make sure my mindset's at the right place, right? When I close a deal, you guys being on my ass, instead of walking around, forcing me to sit back down in my chair and, Erion, get back on your calls. Stop talking to other people, get back on your calls, right? And that was, more than I could ask for, more than anybody has ever done, I'm sure, for anybody. And, especially for me, I can say that.
Yeah, so the accountability is huge. Accountability is huge, man. Especially when, that's why this thing sometimes is hard to do remote, if you're not around like-minded individuals, or at least you're not in a community with other savages doing the same thing, doing these numbers, hustling. It's very tough for you to fucking grow,
I think it's near damn impossible, to be honest, if you're trying to do this by yourself. The reason I think I was able to hop on calls as quickly as I did is because I had over 30 other individuals that at any moment, if I needed to role play, do something, listen to calls, I had it right there. And I wasn't just listening to one thing being sold. I had all different industries at different levels, from 5K, 10, 20, 100 plus. So I could see at all ranges of how this space is supposed to work and how it is. And different people at different levels at sales. And picked up all different things from everybody. And then plus, obviously, our coaching that we do every morning, no matter what, role plays, forcing. Obviously, my biggest thing is being shy. And, when Dylan used to put my calls on speaker in front of everybody, that's the community, that's what you need. And people who understand how you learn, tailoring everything to my needs.
Speaking of that, how did you develop the confidence that you have right now? And how is that helping you make a lot more money on calls?
Being forced to be out of my comfort zone. My team, you and everybody else, understanding where I'm in right now and forcefully breaking those walls down for me, forcing me to be, for example, I'd be on a call and be like, hey, can you guys please help me out with this, kind of struggling. And sometimes I'd be like, no, you know the steps, push yourself, you can do it, right? Actually, believing in me and instilling, your certainty that you have in me and transferring that certainty over and really pushing me to do that. To now, I can hop on any call. Before I hop on a call, my mindset is I've already closed them. My journey now is really just try to help them as much as possible. I'm not worried about the money. I'm not worried about closing or anything like that. Right. It's a done deal for me before I hop on the call.
Right. Yeah, you gotta have that confidence. You gotta have that confidence that you're gonna kill every shot you get. But aside from, the repetition, of course, for some of the people watching at home, how can they develop the skills necessary to, be able to start closing, at least for a mid-sized business and then go to, a high ticket or a bigger business?
I'd say first things first, if the opportunity is there, obviously find someone or something, get out of your comfort zone. This is something obviously we keep talking about it, but that's the biggest thing that holds a lot of salespeople back, is that they just stay in their own little bubble. And that's it. Find, a community of people that you might not be able to, let's say do calls in person, but you can obviously, Zoom or something, right? Send call recordings or something like that. Really start off baby steps so you can be put onto a lower ticket item or offer, And then from there, build your way, build that consistency, start closing more and more. And then eventually, as you're naturally progressing, you will learn way more you do on calls than you will obviously ever, just doing the same thing over and over again.
That makes sense. So like get out of your comfort zone, get out of your bubble, go out, meet people, like go to networking events, like join communities, like start talking to people, introduce yourself. Because like we said earlier, right, you're always like one connection or two connections away from literally changing your whole fucking life. Another thing is like learn sales. Learn the sales basics, right? There's so many, like there's a lot of fucking free training out there for you to actually learn the basic sales, sales psychology, how to communicate effectively, how to objection handle, how to build rapport,
Books, anything. There's so many different avenues right now that I don't see that as an excuse nowadays of I don't know how to do this or how to get into it. Yeah.
You've learned sales, you got the training necessary, you practiced it, you fucking applied it, you got on a good opportunity, worked your way up, got into a even bigger opportunity, closing for 9-figure entrepreneur. How's your life like right now versus 2 years ago?
It's done a complete 180 in its truest form. Before when I started working here, or right before I started working here, I guess I should say, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had all these different opportunities. Feeling a little bit depressed, to be honest with you, because I was 18, freshly 18, have all these different things with no guidance of what I should do with my life and just tossed into the world. To now being the complete opposite, right? I'm happy. I'm certain of myself. I've built more character and charisma, right? I've matured and evolved into someone who I can be proud of and be confident enough that any setting I can be in, I will shine. I will be myself. Before I used to try to hide and be shy, and just retreat, right? Obviously making the money I've always wanted to be making, right? Yeah. It's really like a dream come true, I guess you could say, in a sense. I never thought this was actually possible. You think of dreams, you're like, oh, if one day. But I am there right now. That one day is now. I am making the money I wanted to make. I can do whatever I want, vacation whenever I want, make the money even while I'm on vacation. I mean, I never heard of that before.
We had to push this interview because you wanted to go to Cuba.
So, I mean, it's really just giving me the tools and the abilities to do anything I want to do in my life in every aspect, financially, physically, right? Because it's motivated me, work out, be more social, get out there, right?
I'm very proud of you, bro.
And obviously this wouldn't have been possible without bugging you. So I guess it all makes a 180.
I'm glad you fucking did, bro. I'm glad you did. I got maybe 2 more questions for you. First of all, what's next for you?
My next goal is I want to get to 50K a month consistently, right? I haven't cracked that yet. That's my next major goal, personally, myself, financially.
So your next goal is 50K a month, right? So obviously whatever got you to where you are today is not going to get you to 50K a month, right? So what do you think you have to do to get from 15 to 20K to 50K a month?
First thing is obviously, just with anything, is consistently keep working on my craft. Keep getting better, refining it, making it even more natural than it is right now. Second thing, obviously, which I think is also as important, is shifting my mindset, just like how I had to shift it from 2 to 5K to 10 to 15 to 20. Because again, it takes different things. Now that's more of a bigger jump from 20 to 50K. So I really, have to be mentally prepared for that and ready, put myself in the position, like I'm already making 50K, obviously. But first things first, and the second, is the maturity and everything else to get to the point where when I hop on with someone who has, 300, 500, $1 million liquid to actually invest, they don't feel uncomfortable because they're talking to a 21-year-old. Because it's not over the phone, right? Get them to the point where there's no shiver of a doubt in their mind that this is the thing for them where they should invest that money.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely work on your craft. Got to change your mindset. Absolutely. You're stepping into that newer self again. And sales leadership, man. I think, we can talk about this also off camera, but I think sales leadership is going to be your next thing they need to study. Right, so study and implement that. That's what's going to really help you break that barrier, go 50K and over. Okay, what would you say, last question here, what would you say to the people who are actually watching this at home and want to do exactly what you did?
Just do it. There's no bullshit answer you could give me of why you can't do it. I mean, you just heard my story, obviously, with bugging Rome at a coffee shop, serving coffee. What do? You even know what it is now. You have your phone, you can go on Instagram, Facebook, search something, books, webinars, Facebook group chats, something, learn, get a script, something. Message someone. They're one text message away from you being a millionaire.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Like, it blows my mind. Like, we all have the most successful people in the world at our fingertips.
Yeah.
If you want to learn something, go message the best guy at that something.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, right? So
I even started doing that after here. Random people, I'm like, can I get a free training? Here you go.
absolutely, yeah. So I would say step one, start getting trained in sales. And not just any training. Like, I would advise even get like focused training where you can actually learn the theory, you know, and have a place where you can actually get practice and apply the theory in a controlled environment where there's some coaches, somebody with some experience, right? Because you can go and learn sales on your own, but you're not gonna know if you're doing it right, if you're applying it correctly, right? You might be building bad habits that you might have to unlearn down the road. So get some focused training, and there's some inexpensive options. You know, you don't have to go and spend like $20,000 on a mastermind. There's so many courses out there, right? I even have free training on my YouTube if you guys want to check it out. And the second thing is get uncomfortable, get out of your bubble, stick your hand out more. You know, you're always one person away, or one to two persons away from changing the whole trajectory of your life. Erion, thank you for coming on here, bro. I appreciate you. Guys, if you enjoyed this interview, comment, like, subscribe. It helps a lot with the channel. And if you're ready to take action and actually change your life and step into this space, I recorded this free training on how to actually make money with remote closing this year. Click over here.